Welcome to the Connectable podcast.
The Connectable podcast starts in 3, 2, 1.
I have to say too, man, you have like the nicest setup of anybody we've had on the podcast. This one or the Character Combine podcast. Like this is just, you look like a professional, which I would expect nothing less, but
That's funny. Well, I appreciate it. You have to if that's what you do, right?
Absolutely. I agree. We're not professional podcasters, but we pretend that we are. And, you know, we just make it seem like we know what we're doing, but you actually do know what you're doing.
Awesome. So, yeah.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that, man. Thank you. Anyways, that's how we're going to start this thing. So the voice you're hearing besides myself and Deb is Zac Zlatic. He's a filmmaker, photographer, athlete, businessman, adventurer. I mean, he's kind of just an all-around stud. I don't know. I've probably missed, it probably would have been easier to say all the things you're not. Like you do everything, dude. How's it going?
That's just, thank you, man. It's going great. That's a very generous intro. I got to start using that because I don't know what to tell people, but you said it best. Maybe I'll just call you up when I meet people.
Hey man, I'd be happy to do it, dude. Not a problem. And see, that's the nice thing. When you have that many skills and abilities, it's a good problem to have. It's like, I don't know what to call myself. I'm just kind of a jack of all trades. So, and that's why we're having you on the podcast, man. So welcome. We're glad that you're here.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It does come with the caveat of master of none, right? That's the second half of jack of all trades. But
sure.
But I do consider myself that as well. And I love it though. The variety is the best part. It's the best part of life.
For sure, man. Hey, we like to start this podcast off by because it's called Connectable. And so our whole goal is to get people more connected, whether it's getting the audience connected to us, whether it's getting the audience connected to our guests, such as yourself, or getting you connected to, a different audience that maybe you're not connected with yet. So we like to start off by telling people how we're connected to you. And you and I are actually connected because when I was working for Character Combine, we had a meeting with you about something. I don't know where the connection was. I was just asked to say, hey, you want to sit in on this meeting? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And we just got to talk to you and you were telling us a little bit about, I think at that point you were coaching baseball, or maybe you were coaching baseball over at UC Davis, right?
Yeah.
And then, from there you volunteered at a combine. And then that's kind of the last time I actually saw you. And then I started following you on social media, and then I was inspired. I actually bought a GoPro because of you. I saw how dope your stuff was. And then I started wearing Blender's eyewear and became one of the reps because of you. So that's embarrassing because I've never really done that with anybody. Like, I'm like, oh, it's cool that they're promoting that, but I'm not going to really, buy into their stuff. And then all of a sudden I look back at my Instagram. I'm like, man, I've copied about 5 of Zach's, passions. This is embarrassing, but
that's flattering. Let me put my blue light glasses on
Hey, I actually just bought some for my wife too, and she loves them for her distance learning. But anyways, that's how we're connected. So really, I just feel like it's been cool to see all the stuff you've been doing on social media, and that's why you're here, man. Is because I'm just a big fan, and my brother's a big fan. A lot of us are big fans of you, man. So that's kind of how we're connected. So that's just kind of like a long intro. Sorry,
that
was good.
That's amazing. And I can hop in because I love this whole thing because connections are a huge part of our business, my personal life, everything. And I really love these origin stories. And so the way that we actually met was a hilarious one because me being in college, I, of course, needed a dartboard for my house.
Okay.
And so I looked on Craigslist and met a man named Tracy Neal who was selling a dartboard. And he was a random stranger on Craigslist, and he sold me a dartboard and was like, I just saw your LinkedIn random. So that I met this dude in the parking lot who introduced me to Jason at Character Combine. So like, that's how we're now sitting here today, is because I needed a dartboard off of Craigslist. So I just love the way
that's awesome.
Works and how those connections work. So yeah.
That's perfect, because every time I was talking to my wife, I'm like, she's like, how do you know Zach? I said, well, it's through the combine. But I said, I don't know how he got connected with the combine, to be honest with you. I assumed it was through UC Davis baseball, but that's funny. Now I have that final missing piece of that origin story, like you said. So that's cool, man. So let me ask you this, because I feel like when I follow your stuff on Instagram, it's been weird, over the years, because I feel like you've transitioned a couple of times into different things. Like you started off just doing a bunch of really cool GoPro stuff, and then it became this whole business that you're doing. So how did you get involved in film, content creation, and all of that?
Yeah, it's a great question. I like to tell people that I did graduate from UC Davis, which is cool. I studied econ. But I really kind of graduated. I'm a graduate of YouTube University. Because as soon as I got my undergraduate degree, it was great. I think it gave me a little bit of business sense. But I was lucky to have now one of my best friends, Greg Folks, and a couple other photographers at Davis, kind of take me under their wing, but basically just do what they love and kind of rubbed off on me. And at that point, yeah, it was just us running around being silly with GoPros. And I was just doing that as kind of a side thing. Sports and fitness was always my number one. I went to Davis to play baseball originally, and then just started coaching after I stopped playing. But yeah, it was really just this fire that got lit underneath me by just running around with GoPros and making content, making videos. And I mean, it's just one of those things. I don't know if you've read Outliers or any of the Malcolm Gladwell books, but like, I'm really lucky to be born in the time I was too, because just the way technology has progressed, like the time I decided I wanted to start making videos, you can be a one-man band and make, almost Hollywood movie level content. And so the timing of that, plus me just stumbling upon it and really loving it, and then just putting in the hours that I've never really seen as work to this day, is kind of just how I got into it. Just finding something fascinating online and wanting to copy it, and then kind of make it my own. And then, eventually you get to that 10,000 hour rule and get a little bit better at it.
Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome. Have you always been passionate about doing that? Like, I always wonder how one gets to be where they are. Like, is that something that has kind of just stemmed throughout the years, or just kind of all of a sudden it was like, I'm good at this. I like this. Like, have you always liked things like that?
It's a good question. I had to like reconnect the dots later on for myself, because I was wondering, I didn't really connect how, my uses of cameras and that really like fascinating passion of mine wasn't really there. It was like all baseball, all sports. But then I kind of finally did remember back in like the camcorder days, my dad was kind of the one who always had those home videos. And I recently made a tribute to him this year for his 60th birthday, which was really cool. It made me look back and realize I was using the little VHS, and kind of started there. Definitely like fell off, but I think there's got to be something in the back of the brain connections that kind of reminded me that I did love that sort of thing. But no, it really wasn't at the forefront of my mind. Like, I should minor in this. I should study this. I had no interest for the most part. I think as a kid, I thought it'd be cool when I saw baseball cards to be taking those photos that ended up on the baseball cards. But yeah, it wasn't something I really decided to pursue until just about 2021, and I've just been taking it from there.
That's really cool. Well, like you said, man, it is a really good time to get into it when you did, because like you said, not only do you have the ability to do all those things, but anything you're not sure how to do, you just go to YouTube and there's some, 10-year-old kid that's teaching you how to edit on Final Cut Pro, or, just wild stuff like that. I remember, man, we did a video series for Character Combine, and we did the What's Your Why videos. And so we reached out to you to do one. I almost wanted to quit, man, because the video you sent me was so much better than anything I was putting out there, Deb. I'm like, why am I doing this? We should just I told Jason and Shereen, I said, maybe we should just send all the videos to him and then have him edit it and send it back, because I'm like, yours was so dope. I'm like, man, this is, I'm just doing like these little tiny, simple cuts. But I had to look up some of the stuff you're doing. I'm like,
I look back though, and like, if I rewatch that, it's a good thing, because it means you're never satisfied, and two, you're getting better. But like, I would cringe watching it now, right? Which is
right.
Yeah, at the time, of course, I was like, I'm gonna make this so sick. It's gonna be great. Yeah, I mean, that's very flattering. I appreciate it. No,
yeah, man.
That was a fun project.
Is there? Well, that's why I kind of bounce off the point you just made. Like, I think that's with anybody, right? Anybody, because you probably didn't know this, but Deb's also a writer. She's a teacher, but she's also a writer and has a book out there and working on another one. So I think anybody who does some type of creative thing, whether it's writing, whether it's art, whether it's video production, there's always that thing that you're not going to be satisfied when you look back at your previous works, right? But is there some piece that you've done, some video, content that you've done that maybe like 5 years ago you did it and you look back now, it's like, you know what, that's still pretty sweet.
That's a great question. Yeah, I mean, that's what you strive for, right? There's very few, for sure. It's like the lifespan is so short, maybe a couple of years. It's gotten, it grows more. I guess it's like 2 or 3 years, other than every year I'm like, oh my God, that's so embarrassing. So
yeah.
So now I have a couple of portfolio pieces that are still on our website after a few years. But it's funny, the ones that have the longest shelf life for me are 100% passion projects. So I didn't get paid $1. I also didn't have anybody telling me what to do, which is it can be good, it can be bad.
Sure.
But yeah, I think most people, it's pretty funny, would actually say that the proposal video I made to my now wife is one of those that like will kind of just be the one that lives forever. And it is cheap because it's a proposal video, but it's supposed to be. So there's that one.
Amazing.
And then I made one called like Home Austin, Home ATX. That was kind of my attempt at like a travel tourism video. I was really passionate about that at the time, probably 3 years ago. And there's still some things that I'm like, oh, I kind of wish I would have done it this way or that way. But that kind of like, it's still up like on my website, kind of lives there, and I'm pretty proud of it. Just again, I think there's something to being like all in and having no other collaborators, I guess, and just being able to express yourself completely and just you with no boundaries. So yeah, those are probably the two.
Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome. Where's the what's your favorite place that you've been to, like, to do all that?
In Austin?
Oh, okay. Yeah, or anywhere.
Oh, to shoot. That's a good question.
Yeah.
I thought you meant like in the videos. Yeah. I definitely am lucky because it does. I think the camera brings me to some pretty cool places. I would say last year I had an opportunity to go. I say last year is in 2019 still. Still getting adjusted to it being 2021.
Sure.
When you were allowed to travel in 2019, I had an opportunity to join an author in Tokyo.
Oh, awesome.
Nice.
Being able to go internationally too. But I helped him promote his book. He was on a book tour that his book got translated into like 12, 16 different languages. So it was a big moment for him. And I got to accompany him and kind of make a documentary, like a short documentary piece. So that's probably the farthest I've gone for video work. And it was definitely one of the coolest experiences. I want to go back.
Wow,
nice.
That's amazing.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's really good.
Now I want to ask questions about what was your favorite food in Tokyo? Where was your favorite? Where'd you go? How long were you there?
Yeah, bring it on. I know you can like always branch out into so many different.
Oh yeah, I know. Do you eat
I'll
sushi?
answer it quick. I'm only downtown in Tokyo and ramen, of course. So.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Yeah, my family actually just went there a couple of years ago, and they had a great. Because I have some relatives there that just over the last maybe 4 or 5 years we've reconnected with. And I got a Facebook message from one of them, and I deleted it at first. I'm like, this is just one of those spam things. Like, I don't know this person. Click delete. And then I found out other people in my family got that same message from the same person. I'm like, oh, maybe there was something to this, and it ended up being one of our distant cousins.
Wow.
So, yeah, I know I was. That's what everybody says. Like, why'd you delete it? It's like, I don't know who that is. And then turns out it was one of my second or third cousin. Oops. Yeah. But yeah. So I wanted to go back to the proposal video, Deb. At some point when we get off the air, you need to check it out because here's the thing, man. And this seems to be a theme that I'm just jealous of your work, because I got married in June of 2016. And I'm not sure when you put that video out, but it was a little while after that, right? Right after that, I was so thankful because I watched it with my wife at home.
Beforehand. Yeah. Smart.
Yeah. And I was so thankful. I'm like, oh, I'm glad she didn't see this first because mine was nothing close to this. That was so crazy. But that was an amazing video, dude. That was the amount of work that must have gone into that must have been crazy. A lot of coordination.
It was at the time. I mean, maybe still, it's probably the most like hours into one project. Because I think the whole thing that like the short story is that I rented out a movie theater and lied to her and told her we were seeing a movie premiere. But I played like an 8-9 minute video that I made. But yeah, so it was only 8 or 9 minutes of actual video, kind of like a short film of sorts. But I think, man, it's got to be close to 80 hours of editing or something like that.
Wow.
I mean, and it was like 8 years of footage, so it's not like I could put hours on that. It was everything. And we've been together since we were 16, 17. So
wow.
Yeah, a lot to sort through. But yeah, it was. I mean, I would do it again. It was so much fun making that because obviously your life is kind of just like a memory that you can now revisit forever. So it's definitely cool.
Yeah. So anybody who's listening, make sure you go, like, just pause the podcast real quick, go check it out and watch it, and you'll understand what we're talking about. It's really, really cool. Do
you get to edit all that yourself? Sorry.
Oh yeah.
That's a good question. By yourself?
Yeah. I definitely take pride in that for sure. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
If you're a guy, you go watch it. If you cry, message me and you have to tell me.
Okay.
Yeah. Real tears only. I like that.
Yeah.
Well, so for people who don't know, because I know I can't remember what the ratio is, but for anybody who does video, there is a ratio, and I think people don't understand that, because I think, and obviously we don't want you to put your business out there, but sometimes you reach out to a person who does video, and it can get pretty expensive because it's such a valuable piece of content, and you might be asking for a 30-second to a minute video, and then you hear the price tag, and it's like, seriously, that's crazy. But then you realize that the ratio of like however many minutes or seconds a video is equals a certain amount of work. Can you remind me what that ratio is, or like just roughly?
Oh, that's a good question. I think that's got to be a huge range and discrepancy, because I think it really because again, if it's like a product video, like you're seeing, like Budweiser or Doritos pop up on your TV, that's like 15 to 20, like to 30 seconds, right? But that's like hours of like pre-production and planning and just concepting and then execution with robot cameras and crap.
Right.
Yeah, it's really hard. But versus maybe a unscripted sit-down interview, kind of like this format here,
Sure.
doesn't take as much pre-production, but still will take the hour or two of filming or whatever, plus editing. So yeah, it's hard to put like a full ratio on it, but yeah, it's just like any craft, right? It's just like, you could read, a 100-page essay that Deb wrote, and it's like you could breeze through it in an hour or two, depending on how fast you read. But you probably slaved over it. It's like
right
art, like this. Yeah. So I just love the one. I think it's kind of one of those like mythical legends, but like Picasso was sitting in the park. You guys know that one? I'll say it anyways.
I don't think so.
He like drew a portrait of some woman who asked him to in the park on a napkin or something. And she said, "Oh, like, may I have that? It's so beautiful." And he said, "Yeah, that'll be like $10,000." And she was like, "It only took you 30 seconds. What are you talking about?" And he said, "No, it took me my whole life." Right? So it's like that skill set you develop, that's what you're paying for. You're paying for the expertise and all of the 10,000 hour rule again, that you've worked your whole life to get to that level of expertise. And so that's kind of why, yeah, sometimes the like price tag shop can come in. But we usually do a pretty good job of being able to explain that, and you can like break it down based on like what the whole thing is that goes into the whole project. But it's a fun learning process, learning the whole thing. And I love the business side. My wife does even more, so it's fun.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's a lot to think about. That's why I don't do it.
No,
one of many reasons why I don't do it.
Right. Oh, and I just don't even have the creative juices at all to do anything like that. So like, how do you find your creativity, and how do you like stay creative? Like,
oh, that's good.
Well, and come up with new ideas and
it's a big time ebb and flow, just like anything. It's hard to like bring it up from nothing, but there's a few, like known tactics. Like again, it's just like YouTube. It's just finding new inspiration from places that reminds me of what's cool, what's new, what I really love about the craft. It's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day when you just, maybe shooting or editing something that doesn't really have that much flair or is that interesting. But I think just like the power of community and just like talking to people who are in your field that do the same thing, kind of finding out what they're up to, what's keeping it fresh for them and what inspires them, but also just, almost like forcing that, creativity on yourself and that inspiration rather, because it's out there. It's really cool because you can look up literally anything at any time. And, sometimes it's just like Google Michael Jordan commercials that I've seen probably 20 times and be like, oh yeah, like that's what I'm striving to achieve. Yeah. And so like, it's just that kickstart. Obviously endorphins help, exercise is a big component of that. So if I don't get that, then I'm probably not going to be creative that day at all.
Right.
Those are probably the main two.
Yeah. And then do you ever stumble upon like creative blocks? I know that when I'm writing, when I get to a block, I'm like, uh-oh. It takes me a while. Yeah. Once I'm on, and then my block will last a long time and I'll walk away from it and stuff. And so do you find yourself in blocks sometimes? And then what do you do to jump back in it?
Yeah, every now and then. I'm lucky the nature of my work is less like putting magic on a page like you do from nothing. It's like a blank page. A lot of what we're doing is, again, it's a wide variety, everything from product videos to interview to like full-on storyboarded stuff. The only time I have to actually do that, kind of like similar aspect is from like the concept and pre-production phase, where it's like, we have this cup, make it look really cool. And essentially that's the part where you can get stuck in some like writer's block, where they're like, what's the, you know, the sequence going to be and that sort of thing. And that just takes almost like it's a completely different creative mindset, because once that concept is in there, I'm pretty lucky, because really it's just like grinding out hours and then like trying a few things. It's kind of like a puzzle. It's like you have the puzzle pieces, and you just kind of have to keep playing with them. So that's fun. But that is the part, I think, of the thing that helps me for the creative process for like the pre-production and concepting is really like a change of scenery. I'm super fortunate to have a really cool second bedroom as my office space. But we need to break out of it for things like that require like concepting things from scratch. So we'll hit some coffee shops when they're open, that sort of thing. That kind of gets the juices flowing, kind of set the boundary of like, you're not leaving until you get like pieces of it done. So changes the physical space has been big. Been tougher obviously last year, but still big.
Right. You made it sound so easy. He's like, it's like doing a puzzle.
Like a puzzle. Yeah.
Just like you just put them together. I'm like, what?
Yeah,
Where do I start?
Easy.
Yeah.
You gotta find the corners and then the edges and then.
Hey, there you go. It's that simple. We should try it, Deb. Let's see if we can do it.
Yeah. That'll be good.
Hey, something I've always wanted to ask you about, and I figured at some point, whether it be the Combine podcast or this new podcast, I always wanted to ask you this. A while back on your, I think it was your Instagram, you would use a hashtag, something to the effect of "live a life worth imitating," I think, or yeah. And so I've always been fascinated by that, because obviously, like I said, I bought a GoPro because I saw how cool your stuff was, and I ended up buying blenders eyewear because of what you were wearing. But that was kind of a silly, example of how that quote, I guess, is "live a life worth imitating." But where did you get that from? And why is that so important for people to keep in mind as they kind of go through their journey of life?
Yeah, it's a good question. I can't take any credit because that was from a clothing brand, actually, of all things. It was Barnabas clothing company, who I haven't kept up with recently. I know they're still around, but they're in SoCal. But yeah, they came up with that. They obviously have like a little bit of religious ties, so it kind of stems from that. But I still think it's really cool. Yeah. And I kind of like affiliated myself with a number of like, they were almost like motivational movements at the time. Again, like here at the Combine, very similar. But yeah, I mean, I definitely strive to live a life worth imitating, but like for myself, rather than like finding reasons to do it that aren't, to like reach a certain number of followers, or like make sure that you take this great picture so that you can show other people. It's like you find so much more comfort and happiness like doing it for kind of internal, intrinsic reasons rather than, and it's tough, right? Like the ego is going to take over a lot of times. And, everyone still posts pictures so that people will like it and their friends will see it. But yeah, it's like a balance. And I think it's important for sure to just keep that in mind. And again, not really ever be satisfied to a degree, so that you just kind of keep pushing and being your best self. Yeah,
that's really good. Yeah.
That's a good motto overall.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Not the whole thing. We probably could shorten it a little bit.
But. Yeah. Sure.
Or just live, life with imitating.
Yeah, it's good.
It kind of something that makes me think about too, with you being someone who creates for a living. I heard on a podcast recently, they were talking about the difference between imitation and inspiration. And it's one of those things that you as a person who's putting content out there has to be really careful of, right? Because you might be inspired by something, which is great, but if you slide into that lane of imitation, then you can start getting into problems, whether it's just someone who calls you out online saying, "Hey, I feel like you ripped this off," or, I guess somebody could do it and it gets you into bigger legal trouble. So like, how do you, I guess it's kind of a two-part question, like what inspires you when you're creating? And then how do you maintain that ability to be inspired by something, but not, I guess, imitate it and rip it off?
Yeah. That was a really good question. I don't know if you guys pre-prep these or what, but these are really good questions.
Some of it's just nonsense that comes to our mind, and then some of it is questions that we want to ask you. We have loose guidelines.
Yeah,
we can never stick with them, man.
It's so good.
We're very nosy.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's the main thing. We're just nosy. It's like we want to know everything about you, dude.
You have to be, because then you're asking very specifics.
Exactly.
So remind me, I got off track. Part one was what inspires you, basically.
So for you, like what inspires you is like if you have a project and you're looking for some kind of inspiration to be creative, what inspires you? Or maybe it's a person, maybe like I don't know if you have a certain videographer, a filmmaker, someone who inspires you, or I guess it could be anything that inspires you, or and also what is it? How do you maintain a balance and allow yourself to be inspired by something but not fall into that trap of ripping something off and creating something and looking back like, dang, I basically created the exact replica of something that I was inspired by.
Yeah, I think you did ask it a little differently the first time too.
Way differently. I can't ask it at the same time.
I think what kind of motivates me to stay creative is just the feeling you get, it's like emotion inducing. It's something that it's like kind of hard to describe, but like I really strive to make content and visuals and audio that goes with it that makes people feel something. A lot of times you really can't put words to it. And that's my favorite part, because people who aren't, who are not video creators that can't speak the geeky terms, they don't know why they liked it all the time. They just know that they felt something. And that's like my goal for sure. I don't think it gets talked about a lot, but yeah, it's like you watch a great movie or even just like a short film or even one of those like 5-minute little Pixar, pre-movie episodes, and it's like you feel something. You feel some sort of emotion induced from like something really well put together. And that's kind of what keeps me fired up and creating and always tweaking, rather than just like putting it out when it's like 80-90% done. It's like I really want it to make people feel that. But it's easy to get inspired and like want to be like a carbon copy of people. But I think it's interesting because kind of all art pretty much is imitation for the most part. So yeah, it's hard to say that like I'm going to be my own. Everything you do has been done basically before. So I think it's a great collaborative industry that I'm in, and all sort of like artistic expression really is. But yeah, I draw inspiration from people all the time, and then I try my best to make it my own and kind of pull from the experiences I had. And a lot of the time I'm so ingrained, everybody's ingrained in their own world so heavy. It's like, I feel like I know this video is a rip off of like 5 different people, but like chances are the people watching it haven't seen any of those 5. And maybe if they're just you do the exact same business, they've maybe seen 2, So it's like, and again, I still have my flair from like the hours that I've put in certain places. So it's cool. It's just like a mix, and it's like everybody has their own mix. And my goal is that hopefully someone sees that, which I, grabbed from 5 inspirations that I have, and then they go make something else even better. So it's cool. It's just a constant collaboration and an interpretation of what you think looks great. And it's fun. And I've been lucky that like I haven't copied anything, to be called out or anything. It's like I always try to do a good job of putting my own spin on things.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I wasn't sure how much it even happens in the video world. I mean, obviously we see it happen all the time in the music world. Like you have people, I feel like over the last 10 years, you hear these major artists get, kind of busted for different copyright issues or not, clearing samples and stuff like that. So I wasn't sure if it was the same thing or if it sounds like it's a little bit different, because there's like kind of an understanding that, like you said, we're all kind of inspired by each other. And as you said, everything's kind of an imitation of something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
it's different and it's similar though. Yeah. I mean, the sample thing, all music is ripped from each other basically.
Right.
It has some inspiration from years ago that maybe the artist doesn't even know why they.
Right.
But yeah, I think video is a little bit different because it's what like you're seeing right out of your camera, but you're still versus like you're not grabbing the direct sample from before. But yeah, I mean, there's still like product videos is a space this year in my industry that has gotten really popular, obviously, because people can shoot it at home. And so there's some like leaders in the space, like on YouTube and just social media, that a lot of people like, you can, at least on my feed, which is obviously custom fed to me, it's like, you'd think one person has been doing it because there's a lot of people like pushing into like the same visual kind of look. So yeah, it definitely still happens for sure.
Yeah. So this just kind of popped in my head. So you're an athlete, like we had discussed, and so you're competitive, right? And so do you ever, because YouTube's a weird place. Like, let's just say it. YouTube's a weird place because you can pretty much find anything and everything on YouTube. Is there ever a time where you see somebody just doing something like a crappy video and they're doing some dumb stunt that's getting just as many or more views in your video that took all this time and effort and care? Does that ever bother you? It's like, what is going on here? Or is it just kind of like the nature of the beast now?
Sure. Yeah, I think it's both for sure. Yeah. Personally, like, it is weird because I have a weird relationship with social media in general, because I have a strong dislike for it, yet I create videos full time, mostly for friends who want to post to it. So yeah, I have to balance my relationship with using it for sure. And it is funny. Yeah, the things that do the best, I think, oftentimes do take less, like, maybe effort hours wise, but yeah, those people are smart as well for posting something just with like viral potential too. So yeah, it's one of those platforms like I'm not actually that active on as a user. I actually post almost all my stuff. It's mostly like client work anyway to Vimeo rather than YouTube. But yeah, the people that make livings on YouTube that's cutthroat in itself. So it's crazy. But yeah, it happens all the time, right? Someone slips and falls, and that has
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's such a bizarre thing. But like you said, it makes sense, and it's those people know their audience and they know their platform, and they make content that fits that platform and takes off. So I guess it works.
Yeah, it works.
Yep.
How has your business and all of this changed for you since COVID? I mean, I know it's like our whole world is so different now. I'm teaching kids how to do jumping jacks online. Like, it's just insane. So like, how do you stay positive? How has it changed at all for you, or what have you had to do differently?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's been crazy 12 months for sure. I guess 9 or whatever. But yeah, first shout out to all the teachers and all the parents in general who are now teachers also. My wife and I talk about it all the time. We're really pretty darn lucky at the time that something this crazy has happened, because we're still pretty young and healthy. We're not in any sort of school ourselves, which would be terrible if we had to have an online graduation or anything. And we don't have kids yet, so it's like we kind of lucked out as far as like, okay, we just need to take care of ourselves, make sure everybody else around us is good. But yeah, we've been lucky to be healthy. Our business everybody kind of like looked around and freaked out, obviously, in March and April. So we had like a lull and had to figure things out. But we had a lot of time to like think about how to, maybe flip around the business model and see what we could do different. So the first thing we actually did was do virtual events. We had some really cool connections kind of in like the philanthropic space. And so we did one for Ronald McDonald House Charities, and
cool.
It like snowballed from there. We did like a good job kind of like producing what would normally be a gala or a luncheon in person with like 200-300 people into a kind of like collaborative, like huge Zoom. And then there's like lots of different like places they can live, right? Like the YouTube Live, the Zoom, whatever. And so not our bread and butter at all, because like we do really like shorter form, like really engaging content. And so this is more like please sit here for an hour. We're going to kind of go over like some speakers, some interviews, some Zoom interviews. But yeah, we were so lucky that kind of fell into our lap, and we were able to do that for a while. And so we actually we're so fortunate and grateful. We still had a great year as far as business goes, because then brands started, figuring out how to be safe, and we still like did a lot of in-person shoots after that. So yeah, I'm unbelievably lucky that we still were able to do pretty much the same thing as far as like our business is concerned.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that's really good. That's always nice to hear, just because like you hear so many of the other stories about how people have lost jobs, or everybody in their families lost jobs, and so it's it's nice to hear that some people have been able to kind of persevere through that, despite the crazy situation. For sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of fun work from home stories from the people that are just I was definitely a work from home coach for a lot of friends. Like you could just see like
that's a good point.
Their mindset, or like, this is terrible, that everything that's going on is terrible, and they're like, oh my gosh, I don't have to leave my house, I can wear pajamas all day. And then they would hit like the 1-2 month period where they like maybe got a little bit better computer to like get them comfortable, and then they were just like, this is terrible, I need to leave my house, like I'm so sick of working from home exclusively. so now they're maybe like back at the middle ground. So everyone's figuring it out. It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny, man. You should have just done that. A work at home coach. I've never even heard that.
Yeah, right.
That would have been a great thing right now. You could have just been killing it.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even think about it that way. It's just like people were like, "Well, you've been working. You know, what do you recommend as far as like things from like office chairs to like, what do you do all day?"
Right. Man, that's wild.
Yeah.
Hey, let me ask you this. Is it hard for you to watch movies now because this is like your world? Are you super critical to the point where you just can't enjoy a movie, or are you not like that?
Good. That's a good question. I was never like that at all before, because I also was not very technical as being self-taught. I was mostly just pointing camera, and now that like I feel like I've got a grasp on that, definitely a little more.
Sure.
It's like I have an on-off switch. It's like I was watching like Queen's Gambit the other day. I don't know if you guys, but like a really great like Netflix show.
Yeah.
And it's like shot really well. But I'm like far from a Hollywood like critic or anything. Like I don't want to make those feature like films anyway, so I don't like study them in that capacity. But yeah, Kelly, my wife, will tell you that like she doesn't want to watch anything like that with me, because I'll mention like, oh, did you see that? Like how that was shot? How like totally ruins it for her. But I like catch myself going into that, and then it like totally takes me out of the story. So I do prefer to be like casual observer and just enjoying like overall content. But
that's good. That's good.
Yeah, I can see that from a female perspective. Like I'm not gonna watch that with you because you're just gonna critique it the whole time and ruin it for me.
That's good though. I'm glad you brought that up, because on our last episode, Deb revealed that she's a talker during movies and that she just can't help herself. Are you someone that talks during movies, or does it drive you crazy?
I hate it. Yeah. Can't have it.
Thank you. All right. One for our team.
I ask lots of questions, especially if like you've seen the movie and I haven't. I'm gonna ask you everything. I'm gonna say, who's that? Is that the killer? Wait, who is that? Is that the boyfriend? Is that the lover? Who? I will ask all day. People don't want to watch movies with me.
And I might make you mad in the opposite way. If you ask, I will definitely answer, but I'm gonna pause it. I always because I don't want to miss any second of it.
That's awesome.
It's like
I'm stealing that.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, it comes off as so rude though, but I really just do it because I don't want to miss anything, right? Yeah.
I like that a lot. I'm definitely man. I'm gonna steal another thing from you. I'm definitely gonna do that next time this happens. Just click. Did you have a question? Yeah. Okay.
The murderer is
just break down the whole thing. Yeah, I'm with you, man. I can't. We had like a 15-minute conversation about this last episode, and I just can't do it. It's not my thing. I love movies, but if someone's asking questions, it just bums me out.
I mean, it's why I watch movies alone. I understand. So I'm just cool with watching movies by myself now.
Because no one will watch it with you. That's the problem. They're like, nope, not chatty.
Do you still ask questions out loud when you're watching them alone?
Oh, that's a good question.
Absolutely. Absolutely. My roommates will hear me in the other room talking to myself.
Oh no.
It's like, oh, Deb's watching a movie again. Jeez.
Yeah.
It's bad.
All right. Well, so you heard it here from the actual filmmaker. It's a bad idea. Everybody listen to that. Don't talk during your friend's movie. Yeah, it's rude. No. Hey, let me ask you this too. What was it like? So obviously this is not what you've done from the beginning, right? So when you first decided to jump into this full time, what was that feeling like? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that want to be entrepreneurs. And I was actually just having a conversation with this with my brother. A lot of people I feel like especially now, maybe I'm wrong. You would know better than I would, but I feel like a lot of people like the idea of it. I don't think a lot of people understand really what it takes. I think they see a lot of people talking about it, but I think the amount of work that it takes and the amount of discipline it takes is way different. So obviously you've put in all the time and the effort and the work. What was it like when you first got like that first real check from a gig that you did? Like, what was that feeling like?
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. It's amazing. Yeah. It's such a weird feeling for sure, but I think you're spot on with that. It's really fun and glamorous to put entrepreneur in your Instagram bio, right? Because it's catchy. It's what everyone wants to strive to do, and everyone kind of can with like an online economy. But yeah, it's a lot more work than you think. But you just have to like I don't know. It's one of those things. It's cliche, but it's like you have to treat it. You have to find something that isn't really work for it to be successful. I think you can't like try to manufacture socks if it's like that you're not really that interested in it. It's like you gotta like obsess over like cotton and the length of socks and like tube socks and the elasticity, like right, like for it
That's
to
a good
be
point.
successful. And also I think it's kind of helpful for it to just almost be uncomfortable at first too. I think I was just again really lucky timing wise that I was the age that I was like I'm gonna be 29 in a couple weeks, but I was 20. I was fresh out of school, and so still trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. And so I think that's a benefit. It's a lot easier time to kind of figure out and grind with like less of paycheck versus if I did that now and just making like a corporate job switch to entrepreneur, it's a challenge for sure. And I talked to a lot of people my age, a little bit older. They're like, yeah, I love doing this as a hobby. I'm thinking about like jumping all in, but they're used to an $80,000 salary. It's like, well, you're gonna have to like manage your expectations a little bit. But yeah, I was lucky that I had a little bit of a marketing job, kind of remote out of school. I had a lot of experience like coaching baseball and teaching hitting lessons, so I continued to do that. But when that first job was kind of like they kind of ran out of money as a startup, I was already pushing to like want to make videos for them, and so I was able to just make the leap of realizing how much I loved that portion of what I was kind of able to do and offer to that startup, and I had nothing else as a backup plan. And so I think that can be super helpful too. I mean, it's such a weird, I'm not going to like recommend that to anybody, like have nothing to fall back on, right? But I think you're able to put like all of your time and energy into something that you really find interesting. And you're all in on it, right? And so sometimes that's a life situation that allows you to do that, but a lot of times it's just a mindset to really be all in on. If it's that important to you, right? It's going to take some work.
Right. Well, that makes sense because I feel like that'll take your fear factor out, kind of like, what I'm saying? If you do have a fallback, that's like you're out, right? Like you said, you're like the moment something goes wrong over here with what you want to be all in on, you're like, oh, no, I'll do my fallback. Like, at least I have that. It's okay. Like you kind of allow your fears to overtake you. So I think that's kind of smart. Some of the, some books that I've read about just people in their businesses, that was their thing. They're like, I went all in. I didn't have a plan B.
Yeah.
And
yeah, 100%.
I think those are the most successful.
Yeah.
It's scary, but it's
yeah. 100%. I don't know. I didn't have the mindset of, again, I'm super fortunate to have like a great family support system and, with family here and my now father-in-law lived here too. So it's like I had a good system of people around me kind of like encouraging me or also asking me like, you can do this full time or whatever. But
sure.
Yeah, I wasn't really in fear or ever feeling like, okay, I'm taking the leap to do this. It was just like, I'm just going to keep doing what I like. And like, I think you can charge money for this and I'm just going to keep getting better and better. And so, yeah, it's just like, I think that's way more helpful when it's not, when you just like put the construct on it that it's like not really a job. You're just doing what you want to be doing all the time and doing it a lot.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that's really good. I mean, it's such a simple thing because I feel like we've heard motivational speakers talk about this idea of doing the thing that you love and doing the thing that you're passionate about. But again, I think sometimes I go back to all of these hundreds of entrepreneurs that seem to pop up now. And it's like, sometimes I feel like they're doing things simply for the money, right? Like they're doing this thing. It's very, maybe this is unfair of me to say, but it feels very much like a get rich quick thing rather than doing something that you're actually passionate about. And I always felt like that's going to be a really tough road. If you want to be an entrepreneur and you're not doing something that you love, that's going to be, if it's just about the money, it's going to be tough. And maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like that's just a really brutal road to go down.
Yeah. And people can sniff that out really quick, I think too. People just have such good awareness on it. Like you can feel something within the first 5 seconds of a video of, again, if it's not maybe like a artistic style video, it's more like you're trying to sell your services. Like people know authenticity almost immediately. It's like it's why like some certain like pictures perform well on Instagram, I think too. It's because it's like things with text on them, people are just like, oh, that's an ad. It's like your mind works like snap judge so quick. And so yeah, I think authenticity of it is huge. So
yeah.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Deb. Sorry.
Oh no, I had a question and it's gone. Sorry.
Man, that's like the story of this podcast. You know how many questions we meant to ask but didn't ask because we lost it in the moment? Happens all the time.
Don't you wish you could just like your thought, like as fast as you think, could just like pop up there?
That would be awesome.
Well,
like,
you know what?
the time it takes me to open like a notes app with the like lock screen of my phone, it's always gone. It's
Yeah.
It's really sad. I do this in my classes a lot too. I'll be like, and I was gonna tell you guys something and I forgot, so let's move on. Very I'm not proud of it, but
it happens. Yeah, it happens. Your kids probably love it though.
Oh, they love it. They're like, yes, she forgot.
Yeah. We were supposed to do 25 push-ups, but not today.
She forgot.
Mr. McCollum forgot. Yeah. So, man, we don't want to keep you too long. We want to be respectful of your time because I'm sure you have something you need to edit or shoot or something. But one of the questions, like I said, we started off by kind of explaining how we're connected to you, and then we like to end the podcast by having you give us a suggestion of someone we should be connected with. We call it the connection suggestion. It's a dumb name, but that's all I've got right now. So basically, is there a brand? Is there an organization? Is there a person, a company that you feel like our audience needs to be aware of and that we can follow on social media?
Yeah, I guess if it's okay, I'm kind of going to give a longer-winded answer, but
please do.
Because I love this stuff. But I think it's so interesting. All the people, I was hosting a little Zoom call earlier today for a bunch of other creatives, and we were doing just some goal setting. And a lot of the advice I tend to give them is, it's just crazy this the way the world works and the way that especially like our industry works. But it's just a connection game. I think no matter what you're doing, it's really always going to be about who you know. It's so cliche and boring to hear it over and over again. But I know so many people who make good videos, like pretty decent, that are well connected, that like, shop for Justin Bieber, there's like shop for Nike, something like that. Versus I know people that absolutely crush it and have like no followers on Instagram and like, are struggling to get their names out there. And so it really is who you know. So it's a cool, again, origin story game to play, but like we can trace most of our success back to probably 3 individuals that just 3 people in general. They kind of like tree branched out into like all of our jobs from there, and now who we kind of serve today. But the first one being Mike Posner, the music artist. I was lucky enough to randomly show up in a park and watch his free concert, and then meet his opener who ended up playing at our wedding. And then Mike knows everybody, and so he's recommended me to a ton of people. But the 2 that I'll recommend
I'm gonna pause you there real quick. Sorry. Yeah. You weren't part of his, was it the walk across America? Were you a part of that at all?
Yeah, I joined him.
You did?
Crazy. He walked across the entire country. And I met him in Colorado for a few days, and I met him when he flipped it and went from Atlantic City, from the East Coast rather, to Venice Beach. And so then I met him at the end on the beach.
Oh, that's awesome. He almost died, didn't he?
He got bit by a rattlesnake and helicoptered out, and then could have died because of baby rattlesnakes give you all the venom.
Right. What a wild thing.
Healed up for a couple weeks, and then he went right back to the spot that he got bit and then kept walking. So he did the whole thing. But
so cool. Cool. Sorry, I just had to ask. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So that decision I made was responsible for a large majority of our work, and then 2 others that are just like huge connectors. One, his name's Mark Garza. He runs Flatwater Foundation, so that's one that I'd recommend looking up. They benefit families and people affected by cancer diagnosis. And I've been unbelievably grateful to not have, I'm one of the very few people that like, I don't know anybody yet in my family or like close friends that has been affected, but I love what they're about and their stories. And we've been able to produce a ton of work for him, and like just everything they do is incredible. They paddle dam to dam on stand-up paddle boards every year, 21 miles.
Oh, cool.
And they do that obviously in the name of their charity. They're super active here in Austin, and just a really cool foundation to know, but the people involved in it even more so. So that's one. And then the other one is a Clean Cause. They're making a huge name for themselves just in the beverage industry. They used to be just a little local Austin company, but I met with this dude, Wes, who's like long-haired entrepreneur. He is the like quintessential entrepreneur. He's like crazy. You'd think he's like always just pounding caffeine. And I kind of just hit him up on LinkedIn when I was still figuring out what to do with my life in general. I was kind of making videos, and he took the time out of his day to just meet me at a coffee shop and kind of mentor me. You know, so I just sight unseen, I LinkedIn messaged him, and we got to know each other a little bit. He kind of recommended me. He's like, well, if you want to make videos, like you could do this, this, and this. I could introduce you to this guy. I was like, this is unbelievably generous. Wow. He's like, I have this crazy idea. Like, he's had a couple successful businesses, but he's like, I'm gonna just make water, and I'm just gonna give away half the money. And so I was like, okay, yeah, crazy. But he struggled with drug and alcohol addiction, so that's where his money goes. So he now gives away half of their profits. They have a very successful yerba mate, multiple flavors, and just like electrolyte water. It does super well. So those are the two I would connect with. Like, those are just incredible companies. They have awesome products, they're awesome brands, and really cool founders and people behind them. So Clean Cause and Flatwater Foundation.
Awesome. Those both sound amazing. So
I remembered my question.
Oh geez.
Okay. Sorry.
What was that?
Where, I don't know, it just came back. Where can I ask it? Is that okay?
Oh, please, yeah, please do. I feel like everybody in my house heard your excitement. Go ahead.
Where is there a destination place that you want to shoot at, or do you want to do your video that you haven't been to? Like, where's your dream place? I feel like that would be like a warm-up question.
That's a good question. That was worth the excitement of bringing that back. So good job.
Let's get warmed up now, huh?
Yeah.
Well, it kind of goes along with, I'm lucky, I kind of bring my camera everywhere we travel to, and we love to travel. Kind of number one on our radar right now is an African safari.
Ooh,
okay.
Nice.
So I don't know that we're gonna like produce any like real work out there, but just the experience of it all, and kind of, you know, get to see something that a lot of them kind of going to be endangered and these things. So that would just be one of those experiences I couldn't ever pass up. Saving up for that, and then good question. There's got to be other like more experience-based things that I definitely want to be a part of, but that's got to be the top. That, and then I really want to go to Greece. That's next on the list.
Oh,
nice.
It's so pretty.
I just love overall like natural beauty. Just love to.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Very cool.
Easy one.
Those are good answers. I love it.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, thanks, Deb, for remembering.
Yeah.
It's a close call. We were almost out of here, and you just got it in. That buzzer beater. Nice work.
I know.
Yeah.
I work well under pressure, I think.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right. I don't know how true that is. Well,
Josh doesn't think he is questioning that answer right now.
All right.
Yeah, we've done over, man, between this podcast and the other podcast, we've done over 115 podcasts. So I'm not sure that's true, but that's okay. Well, under pressure.
Yeah, vocal cord workout, that's for sure.
That's the weird thing, man. And I'm sure you've thought this too with what you do. When Deb and I have talked about this off air. When we look back and think, okay, we've done say 120 episodes, and some we've had to delete because they were crappy and they were awful. It's like, we can't put this out there, but it's like, we've talked for over 100 hours, which is just a weird thing, you know, to awesome people like yourself, or to each other. For some reason, we just kept talking about random topics. Yeah. It's like, that's a weird thing to think about. I'm sure like you said that you brought up a couple of times the 10,000 hour rule. That's got to be a weird thing if you were to look back at how long you've done video editing, how many hours you put in. I mean, it's weird to think about. It's almost daunting to think about.
Yeah. It really is, because you can't like feel the progress or feel like the level you're at, right? But like just listening to you guys speak, obviously I'm working big time on my ums and uhs, but I have many of them. But you guys are very obviously like fluid in it.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, it is super weird. It's like how many hours I've literally stared at this timeline, like putting videos together. But every time I see it, it's empty when it starts. So it's new and fresh, but it's all in there, right? Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It's really weird.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. Those ums and ahs and likes, when I edit this thing, and I don't even do that much editing, I just hear myself say it. And I majored in communications. I took a lot of, public speaking classes and speech classes. It's like I didn't take any of them at all. It's like, where did I learn how to speak? It's like ums and ahs all the time. So yeah, it's brutal to listen back to.
I public speak every day, and I still do it.
Yeah.
So.
You guys are way better than most. I didn't hear any, so.
Oh, last question before we get you out of here. Have you ever done a podcast before, or is this your first podcast? I like asking people this question.
Not really. I think like one or two like buddies, like little Zoom calls during quarantine that they kind of like collected together. But yeah, not really like an official podcast that you can find on podcasts or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts.
Sure. I was just curious. You're good at it, man. So if you find like a sliver of time within your schedule, you may want to consider it.
I mean, I love it. We talked about it doing one this year, but speaking of talking to each other a lot, my wife and I talked a lot of hours. She works right here, so I don't think we're gonna be. It's not in our cards to be hosts, but I do love it, and I mean, I think you guys did an awesome job. I just appreciate you having me on. And again, me putting in more hours for public speaking and getting better at that is huge for me. So
awesome.
Thank you, guys.
Well, we definitely appreciate having you on. Let the people know where they can find you on social media and all that stuff, because you got to check his stuff out for sure. It's awesome. Yeah,
I'm probably the most active just on Instagram, which is double Z, the word double dot and then Z. But I'm sure you'll pick it up.
Yeah, we'll tag you all that stuff. So make sure you follow him, and make sure you follow all of the organizations that he mentioned earlier as well. We'll tag them in the post as well. That's all we've got, man. Thank you so much for joining us. We definitely appreciate it. And we just look forward to continuing to follow what you do and see you succeed, man.
I appreciate it. You guys as well. Thank you so much for having me. It's fun.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, man.
All right.
Thanks for watching the show. If you enjoyed that episode, make sure you like it, share it, and hit the subscribe button to get a new episode every week. We'll see you next time on the Connectable Podcast.